Hello there and welcome to the WP Builds newsletter. This newsletter is number 22, entitled WordPress 4.9.8 Improvements, UI Fun and Weird Divs. It was released on the 23rd of July 2018 and covers the week commencing the 16th of July. Just a couple of bits of housekeeping. If you go to wpbuilds.com/deals, you can avail yourself of coupon codes for plugins such as Toolset, Malcare, BlogVault, MainWP, and a few more. And if you'd like to go and find out a little bit more about our podcast, you can go over to wpbuilds.com/subscribe, where you can join our Facebook group, you can join our Slack channel, and get notifications via Messenger. Okay, the last thing to say is if you feel like you would like to, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Apparently this really does help, and I think me just suggesting people should do it has actually encouraged a few people to do it, so I really appreciate that. Okay, let's get stuck into the actual news itself, shall we? The first item is on the WordPress.org website, and it's about the fact that during the course of this last week, WordPress 4.9.8 Beta 1 and 2 has been released, and the most notable feature, there's a few bug fixes and so on, but it's all about this trying out the Gutenberg experience. We'll come to that more in a moment, but just to say that if you're keen on keeping abreast of what WordPress is doing and how up to date it is, go and look at wordpress.org and you'll see that the beta cycles are coming thick and fast now. The next article is from the wptavern.com website, and it's an article which basically says that over the release cycle of the beta test for 4.9.8, we seem to have significant memory leak problems. There was a problem of memory exhaustion errors due to WP is stream function, and these have been mitigated. If this was causing you a problem, you could probably go and download 4.9.8 Beta 2 and solve that problem, but for most people it might not have been an issue at all. In that WP Tavern article, they mention about the fact that this was a really nice track ticket, because rather than people falling out and getting on each other's nerves, they actually got to the bottom of this problem fairly quickly and fixed it, which is quite nice. Okay, the next one is also, I'm really featuring WP Tavern heavily this week. The next one is all about what the 4.9.8 Beta 2 try Gutenberg prompt in WordPress will look like. We all know that Gutenberg is coming, and very soon we're going to have this prompt when somebody installs WordPress. What do they want to do? Do they want to use the classic editor? Do they want to install Gutenberg? And now we've got the UI, what it'll look like for people to make that choice. And it explains what the new editor is like. They're obviously clearly trying to push this because the button is sort of colourful, whereas the classic editor button is the normal grey, boring one. And yeah, we're getting to that point where it's coming very, very soon, and so they're just trying to encourage people to get on board. Obviously, if you don't want people, well, your clients in particular, to use the Gutenberg editor, there is the classic editor add-on, which will sort of disable all this stuff, so you can check that out in the WP Tavern article as well. The next one, still on WP Tavern and still on Gutenberg, is the fact that Gutenberg 3.3 has been released, and it adds archive and recent comments blocks. There's a few little options that you can click. So, for example, you can truncate the way that your archives show so that it isn't a great big list. You can have it as a sort of drop down if there's too much to display if you've got a large archive. Video blocks now have attributes. So, for example, you can switch on and off autoplay or loop or mute it and so on. So there's quite a few things coming out. It feels like we're at the point now really where most of the minimum viable product feature set has been released now into Gutenberg, and now we're just tweaking and making things very, very nice. And, you know, just sort of feels like it's getting to be super ready at this moment. Okay, this next one is a podcast that you got to listen to. It's Brian, I never know how to say his surname. It's Brian Krogsgaard at Post Status, and they've got a a podcast over there, and they talk to James and Kevin, who are co-founders of Ninja Forms. Now, they have come by a product which iThemes released many years ago called Exchange. It was their e-commerce platform. It went through somebody else's hands, but has ultimately ended up with them. So they've got a bit of history with Ninja Forms. We know that they're good at what they do, and they sort of live up to their promises, and they've acquired Exchange. So those of you who are users of WooCommerce but would rather step away from WooCommerce, perhaps the Ninja Forms guys is something to watch in the near future. You know, you might find yourself with a new incumbent e-commerce solution within WordPress very soon. Okay, the next one is on the main WP website, and it's to say that main WP is now offering WP security audit log integration. So there is a plugin, very popular plugin called WP Security Audit Log, which apparently offers incredible logging statistics, and main WP is integrating with them. At the moment, it feels like this integration doesn't happen within the main WP dashboard. It's just creating log files, which at some point in the future you'll be able to see. So basically you'll be able to get log details of just about everything in the near future with your main WP dashboard if you're using that plugin as a way to manage your WordPress sites. As an aside to that, if you do want to purchase main WP, you can go to the wpbuilds.com/deals website, where you can get 25% off, I believe it is. Very nice. Okay, the next one is an Elementor article. During the course of this week, they've introduced filter effects and blend modes. I'm going to find this virtually impossible to explain. Simply click on the link in the show notes beneath this player, and you will find what it looks like. And there's lots of videos done, and to be quite honest with you, some of it's really impressive. It's kind of the idea that you can saturate the background, you can overlay images on top of one another so that some parts of that image become a sort of filter, so that you can see some parts and some parts not. It's really clever, and the options look really great. I have to say, I'm very impressed. And if you've got a client that needs something whiz bang and looking absolutely terrific, this may be something that you're very interested in, coming out of Elementor. Speaking of interesting UIs, the Smart Slider 3 guys have come up with something called Split Slider. It's a really intriguing way of splitting the screen, well, straight down the middle basically, so that when you scroll, content scrolls in from two different directions. Half of it scrolls in the normal way and the other half scrolls in the opposite direction. I think it's quite cool. If you're a user of Smart Slider 3, this is obviously something you'll want to look at. Again, it's just a bit of crazy, funky UI, and if you've got a client that really needs that kind of stuff, this might be worth looking at. So Smart Slider 3. Okay. Back to the WP Tavern, believe it or not. This is to say that progressive web apps, PWA for short, are being considered for inclusion in WordPress core. The idea of a progressive web app is that it runs on the web and provides kind of like an intuitive application-like interface on a mobile browser. So rather than installing an app into Android or iOS, you have a web application, and the idea is that it loads instantly and it doesn't sort of jitter or lag in any way, and it can create a sort of button on your home screen of your phone or tablet or whatever it might be. And so this article by WP Tavern is outlining the push to make this stuff compatible with WordPress. It's very interesting, and certainly in the future, the idea that your website could also be a web app is very appealing to a lot of people, I would have thought. Okay, Toolset, a plugin which creates views and custom post types, have also integrated not just with Google Maps, they've got an update to Google Maps, but they've also included Microsoft Azure Maps as well. This may interest people who are a little bit irritated perhaps by the latest changes to the Google Maps API pricing. I have not tried it out. I can't tell you whether it's working or not, but just interesting that there's now another decent Maps add-on that you can use instead of Google Maps. And iThemes, last WordPress article, has entered the hosting space. They've got a product, I think it's just simply called iThemes Hosting, and it's kind of like it feels like a mid-tier between cheap shared hosting and VPS, somewhere in between. I don't really know too much about what it's offering, what the platform's doing, but if you're into looking at a sort of mid-range price, then this might be something that you'll want to look at. Okay, right. last two things that are nothing to do with WordPress whatsoever. The first one is on the CSS Tricks website. It's just really quirky. There's a div, a very, very simple div. And if you display it in different browsers, the exact same div looks utterly and completely different. It's really weird. It creates basically a square in some browsers and a square with sort of strange different colors in other browsers. It's just really bizarre. It's all to do with the outline property. It's 2 lines of CSS, and it's just a bit fun how the different browsers are interpreting it. Nothing more than that. And the last one, if you're the kind of person that's using a tool to create wireframes for your web projects so that you can get your clients to see what it looks like, never came across this one before, but it came across my radar this week. It's called SlickMap, and this is now SlickMap 2.0, and you can create really nice, simple sitemaps with this tool. And I just kind of like the look at it, and I do sitemaps occasionally if I've got a big site which the client can't understand. And now you've got lots of upgrades, for example, that you can put different levels in. It's all done with Flexbox, so it's beautifully responsive, and it's all CSS driven and so on and so forth. I just really like the look of it. So there we go. That's it. The WordPress news for this week. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a lovely, lovely week.